Welcome to the Angry Nerd Podcast. My name is Arshawn Wade, aka the Angry Nerd. The Angry Nerd Podcast is taped in front of a live Facebook audience from my mom's basement. The Angry Nerd Podcast is made possible by a couple of bad life choices and a few shattered dreams. The Angry Nerd Podcast is made possible by money that my wife gives me from my SSI check, some chick named Joni, and proceeds from listeners like you. If you want to be one of the listeners that helps contribute to this show getting better and better, go to Cash App. My Cash App is $, The Angry Nerd. Not glorified internet begging. Pick up one of the Angry Nerd Podcast t-shirts that come in colors black and white. We'll get yours out to you at our earliest convenience, which is usually Friday. But anyways, tap in with me if you follow me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or email me at theangrynerdpodcast at gmail.com. There it is. And with me in the easy is my mother effing friend, my none other than my A1 from day one, Kevin Palmer, a.k.a. Peasy Baby.
What's up? What up?
Man, you got it, bro. Listen, I was talking to you earlier, and I said, man, it has been so long since I have done a show on talking about the big three, the G, the O, and the D. And I haven't had the distinct pleasure of having this conversation online with you or recording this conversation. So I had a few questions. It's really light because the questions are really light because this topic is so abstract, in my opinion. I'm not emotionally attached to a god or religion or a particular school of thought. I don't reject information. You know what I mean? Even if it sounds crazy, I'm like, hey, if I don't know about it, well, tell me more. And woe to the soul who doesn't have more to tell me, because then I'm going to think you were trying to give me an intellectual one-up, and now I gotta have it. I gotta have it. You know what I mean? Like, because if you can't expound on the point, then what was the point in bringing it up? I felt like you were trying to snub your nose at me. Now me, I'm an Authorstician, so if you tell me something that I'm not familiar with, please information.
But anytime I share anything, it's always short and simple. It's always short and long and drawn out. Never long and drawn out. So whenever you ask me a question, I guess just blunt, honest.
Sure. Well, anyways, the topic of God. I think, how did we title this one? I think it was who came first? God or man? See, and for me, it's like, did men create God or did God create man? And I know that there are the uber Christians out there who, the mere thought of this conversation is blasphemy. You know, like they like these boys are stupid. Of course, God made man because they only think in the capacity of their respective religion. And so for them, God isn't an idea. God isn't something abstract like it is for me. God is everything. God is omnipotent. God is all powerful. God is all knowing. God is infallible to a lot of these people. So I understand that emotions will be high with some people whenever you have a subjective conversation about something as convoluted, a topic as convoluted as God.
Okay, so when I first began working the NA or AA, there was a guy, his name was Frank. And he said, if it was for people that didn't believe in he turned it into an acronym. He turned into an acronym.
Correct.
So although you don't believe in, let's say, just any type of higher power, good orderly direction,
go off those acronyms.
It'll lead to something positive in your life.
It'll lead to something positive
in your life. God leads to something positive.
Believe that.
And I can smoke a whole bag of that because, I went through treatment and stuff like too, and I'm familiar with that information as well. And good orderly direction, because there are a lot of people, especially when since you talked about, NA and A type of thing. there's a lot of people who come from a street lifestyle or a drug lifestyle who have seen the ugliest aspect of life. And they cannot wrap their head around somebody being powerful enough to stop that shit and not do it. Because here I am, a lowly dope fiend. Here I am, a lowly drug addict, a street person, a gangbanger. And if I saw women getting raped and abused and children being abused and raped and sold, and I had the power to stop it, I would do it. So it is very difficult for people who have seen the ugliest aspect of humanity to grasp a concept like God. Now, I asked the question, who came first, God or man? Because a very foolish question, what came first, the chicken or the egg? And I was like, well, to hell with that.
That makes no sense.
To hell with the chickens and eggs. Did God make us or did we God?
That makes no sense.
And if we made God,
did God
why?
make us or did we make God?
Did the ancients create the concept of God to keep us from going crazy? Because something has to be there. Something has to be greater than us. We cannot be the supreme being of the universe. We can't be that. Like, you know, most human beings have a low opinion. Like, most people can't take account. You say, hey, girl, you wearing that dress. Oh, this old thing. Oh, girl, stop it. You know, most people can't take a compliment. I know I just, at, I think 35, started teaching myself how to accept a compliment. I'm still the worst at it. You know what I mean? But most people think I'm real conceited, but I'm not. I'm actually really, really humble. And when someone does give me a genuine compliment, I'm very natural that I'm like, oh, yeah.
But I'm not. I'm actually really
Appreciate your shit.
Because most people just can't receive that. So I would imagine if I was one of the ancients, like most people can't conceive that they are the highest form of intelligence in the universe. And I don't believe that. But what I'm saying is I could understand a group of people being somewhere, existing, realizing that they exist, realizing that they exist independently and in tandem, you know, adjacent and conjoined. You know, they realize at some point I'm a part of something.
Adjacent and
later we know it in the English language as humanity.
They realize at some point
or the human race.
Later we know it in the English language as humanity.
With religions, but
or the human race.
For me, it's my own personal.
Everybody has a different concept of God.
Perception of God is kind of like how Reverend Ike explained.
For me,
God is within.
My own personal.
Ain't nobody in the sky talking to.
Kind of like how Reverend Ike explained. God is within.
What is that?
And let me say this real quick for our listeners on Spotify, YouTube, and for people in Facebook land who are listening. This conversation isn't to put anyone's religious belief or their conception of God on trial. That's not the energy here. It's just a general conversation. So I do want to say, because I recognize that I'm an asshole and I don't have the I'll kill you over God and I'll kill you over Jesus mentality. I don't have that. And I get how some people could be put off by it, because I know some people they'll fight and die over what they believe as far as their religious practice. And to have that strong of a belief in something, I think it would be very, very disrespectful to not treat it with some sort of respect. You know what I mean? Even though I don't believe that way, and that's not how I get down, I'm not a blood, but I don't say certain words not because of fear, but for respect. Because I'm not seeking out to disrespect someone who wears red because I wear blue. So I don't use certain language because I know that language can stir up bad feelings. So I am going to try to be as respectful as possible when I talk about these things. But I also want people to remember that I make these jokes and God can get that work too, man. That nigga can get that. You think God can't catch this barbecue youth, man? I will light God ass up. I'm a bored, lonely nigga. I be at the house. You think I haven't had a roast session with God before? Man, God, you just make anybody, nigga. What you do? You ran out of parts whenever you made force with it. You couldn't get him the right kind of. Like, I would roast God, bro. I don't play no games out here in these streets, but for my more sensitive religious people, I will try try to be mindful that you kill me behind this, and I don't want you to do that.
Games out here in these streets, but for my more sensitive religious people.
But anyways,
I will try to be mindful that you'll kill me behind this.
Thinking about God, now we have to get to heaven.
But anyways,
because how do we know where did heaven come from? Where did that idea come from? The idea that not only is there a God and he run all this shit.
Where did heaven come from?
But while you're living here, you got to try to play this game as righteously as possible so that you can get inducted into the Hall of Fame.
While you're living here, you got to try to play this game as righteously as possible so that you can get inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Heaven and hell is a mindset. It's a mindset.
My unprofessional opinion.
Go deeper on that, man.
Okay, so
just put it out there. Hold on, man. You just play with it a little bit, man. You gotta go ahead and jack that motherfucker off, man.
Because my personal beliefs ain't got nothing to do with nobody else.
No, but I'm interested. I really like to hear.
Let's just say
because my personal beliefs ain't got nothing to do with nobody else. No, but I'm interested. I really like to hear.
I'm doing all this shit. That something gonna come back and get me. Something gonna come back. So you just kind of eating at yourself. Your conscience eating at yourself.
Now it's on your mind constantly. I'm doing all this bullshit. Something gonna come back. Something gonna come back and get me. Something gonna come back. So you just kind of eating at yourself. Your conscience eating at yourself, and you fucking yourself up mentally. Because you're doing all this bullshit, you know something gonna come back. You just don't know
bullshit on your mind. Constant bullshit.
But if you ain't out here doing right shit.
Now, based on your conception of heaven versus hell mindset, would you think that we're all in a constant state of hell? Then let me say this: not all, but most of us in the low-income community and the black community, most noteworthy. Based on the way that you describe heaven and hell, that would mean that most black people are in a constant state of hell. Because you got to think, that wouldn't just be because everybody's not a. Here's where I go with that, just based on your information there.
That would mean that
everybody's not a street dude. So everybody's version of doing bad things is different. You see what I'm saying? So you saw exactly where I was going with this. So everybody, and so if I'm a fuck nigga, you know what I mean? I'm out here running around lying to bitches and, not taking care of my kids and not doing a lot of manly things. Like these things are constantly on my mind, so I feel bombarded and I feel
everybody is so if I'm a fuck
to be a piece of shit
I'm out here running around
because I've already done a lot of piece of shit like behavior, so I continue to move in that energy.
So I feel bombarded.
So that gets us back to the Bible or the old adage, so a man thinketh that shall he be.
Because I've already done a lot of piece of shit like behavior.
We're in the now we're getting into the neo earth people and shit like that. We're manifesting. Now we're manifesting. So now we're talking about So if I have the ability to manifest heaven or hell, here's where it gets unfair for me. If I was birthed in the ghetto,
so now we're talking
every
about
thought that I've probably had since I've been able to think has been plagued with hell.
Heaven or hell. Here's where it gets unfair for me.
If you're surrounded by fucked up shit, that doesn't happen to you.
Every thought that I've probably had since I've been able to think has been
if it's 10 motherfuckers in here.
No, because if man.
Okay, me, you.
If you surrounded by fucked up shit,
them other 8 motherfuckers have to be you. Sniffing cocaine.
You have to partake
of that.
If
that's not it.
If it's
not
10
for me,
motherfuckers
so
in
I'm
here.
not partaking of it.
Now, while I agree with you, Kev, here's where I part ways with that logic. Is because where's my reference point to making that choice? You see what I'm saying? No. Hear me out real quick. Like, I'm a little dirty nigga, grew up in Comanche Park. You know what I'm saying? In Tulsa, I'm like, I don't have a reference point to. All I know is Comanche Park Bloods. My first role models, my first area. At what point do I have to learn that there's something else if I never get out of this?
I'm like
this
I don't have a reference point to. All I know is Comanche Park.
How am I going to find out the choice that there is a right or wrong choice to make? How do I get to that place if I have already been birthed into a place of hell? My reference point for how I reason and rationalize is peppered by hell. So this is what I'm saying. I'm with you, and I love that mindset. I love that idea. But what I'm saying is, based on that idea, I see a lot of why black people aren't doing as great as they should.
This is what I'm saying.
If that school of thought is correct,
I love that mindset.
I could get on board with how black people.
But what I'm saying is, based on that idea,
because we don't have the ability to manifest good things until we get to experience good things. Now, if someone hasn't gotten an opportunity to experience a better way of living, do you know that there are people who think that top ramen noodles are a whole meal? There are people who think that that little blue box of macaroni cheese is a whole meal. That's not a meal. It's not. It's like, but there are people who believe that that's a whole dinner.
There are people who think,
and until they go to someone's house where they're not being rationed and the spoon isn't being shaken whenever they're being served food, you don't realize that people eat better than this.
It's not.
You have because you don't have a reference point. All you have is poverty. Anybody who's ever been poor, do you remember your first time going over some friends who had a little bit of money's house?
Whenever they're being served food,
do you remember how many times you said,
reference point.
Wow. Shit. Do you remember how many times, because you couldn't fathom human beings living this way? Anyone who's ever been in poverty, and then had the opportunity to go to rich friends' houses, usually rich white friends, of course, and experience that, especially if they were uncouth, like we had a little bit. That's the old people say, uncouth. We had a little bit of couth, like we knew. You know, we knew to whisper a little bit. Like, look how big the door handle is. They got the lion door knocker thing, bro. You know,
like we had a little bit. That's the old people say, uncouth.
I mean, totally impressed because we didn't have a reference point. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if I have that mentality with monetary things, physical things, what about these intangible things like character and morals and values? If I don't have a reference point for monetary things, physical things,
so
I certainly don't have a reference point to these non-tangibles.
No, it's physical things. What about these intangible things like character and morals and values? If I don't have a reference point for monetary things, physical things.
Oh, not to a hungry man.
I certainly don't.
Not to a hungry man. A hungry man's gonna do whatever he's got to do to fill his belly. You see what I'm saying? It's like you say that, but if I am in the wilderness and I come into what they call bunny ears society, I don't know any of these rules and laws. My moral compass is going to be set up a little bit differently. I'm not going to go in the store and know that I'm going to have to pull out money and buy something. I just know there's food, I'm hungry, I'm eating it. In that man's mind, he's doing the right thing. But based on our laws in society, he's going to jail.
I don't know any of these rules and laws.
You see, so when we talk about right and wrong, I can only really attribute natural laws to right and wrong. You see what I'm saying? Natural laws, like eating, having sex, and things like that. You know, these natural things that have to be done using the restroom, you know, drinking water,
you see, so when we talk about right and wrong,
these things, these natural laws. You know, it's not these unnatural laws. You know, speeding and saying, a car's an unnatural thing.
Eating,
this isn't a natural
thing. Having sex and things like that. You know, these natural things that have to be done. Using the restroom, you know, drinking water.
I think about
breathing,
black people in our relationship with God.
These natural laws. You know, it's
and how we don't question. We don't question it. And then when you do, well, in my experience is that you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to ask questions because I've been chastised by church people because I grew up in church. And I learned very quickly, you know, not to ask questions, even though a lot of stuff doesn't make sense.
Well, in my
Okay, but
experience,
if you don't challenge,
you're not supposed to do that.
but you
You're not
challenge
supposed to
yourself.
ask questions, because I've been
don't make
chastised
sense.
by church people, because
That
I
don't
grew up
make
in
sense
church. And I
The
learned
logic doesn't
very
jive.
quickly,
I agree
you know,
100%.
not to ask questions,
Because
even though
I
a lot
asked
of
a
stuff
lady
doesn't
one
make
time.
sense.
Okay, but if you
I
don't,
said,
you
"Do
don't
you
challenge,
hold your
but you
man
challenge yourself.
to a higher standard than you hold your
I mean, that don't
God?"
make sense.
And
That
she
don't
said
make sense at
yes.
all.
The logic
I said, "So
doesn't
God
jive.
can make mistakes, and He works in
100%,
mysterious ways, but
because
I make a
I
mistake
asked
and you
the
want a
lady one
divorce."
time, I said, "Do you hold your man
The mistake's name was
to a higher
Veronica.
standard than you hold your God?"
But
And she said yes.
That's somebody else's God.
I said, "So God can make mistakes and He works in mysterious ways, but I
How do we know we're going anywhere? So we get to heaven and hell. We get to that place. Heaven and hell. Scary stuff, spooky stuff. We know about Dante's Inferno giving us this visual depiction of hell and everybody being so afraid of that. We get that.
You know, that shit was crazy.
How do we know we're
Yeah,
going
yeah, yeah.
anywhere?
I haven't read the book.
So we get to heaven and hell.
video game
We get to that
actually.
place.
That shit
Heaven and
crazy.
hell. Scary
That shit
stuff,
crazy
spooky
as hell.
stuff.
Yeah.
We know about Dante's
Yeah,
Inferno
the
giving us this visual
Oh,
depiction
yeah,
Go.
for
of hell
sure.
and everybody being
Yeah, it was
so
far
afraid
out.
That
of
shit
that.
was crazy.
We get that.
You know, that shit was crazy. Visual.
Dante's Inferno.
Like, you would have
Yeah,
to-
yeah, yeah.
I hadn't read the
Like
book.
YouTube,
It was
like that
like
shit.
it was a video game I actually played. That shit was crazy.
Right.
That shit was crazy as hell. Like
Yeah.
the things.
But my
they
thing
had
is,
to go through
how do we know?
just to
How do we know
find
we're
that
going
girl.
anywhere,
sure.
let alone where we're
It
going?
was
Man,
far
that
out.
shit was
I'm like,
crazy.
who has? I mean, they got a couple of guys who say they crossed over and came back, but I see TV. I don't believe
that
nothing.
shit.
I don't believe anything.
Right.
I don't believe any. I can't believe shit that
But
these one of
my
these
thing is,
dudes say.
how do we know-
And I've seen my
how do we know
mom
we're going
talk about, "Oh, I'm
anywhere,
getting
let alone where
goosebumps.
we're
This is the
going?"
one." Man, sit
I'm
your
like,
goofy ass down, turn the heat up.
Who has,
No,
I mean, they got a couple
no,
of guys who say
Love you, Mom.
they crossed over and came back, but
to your ass.
I see
Oh,
TV.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't believe
definitely.
it. I don't believe
Definitely.
anything.
I'm sorry,
I don't believe anything. I can't believe shit that these one of these dudes say. I've seen my mom talking about, "Oh, I'm getting
Oh,
goosebumps.
sure.
This is the one." Man, sit your
Oh,
goofy
sure.
ass down, turn the heat
And
up.
tell
No, it's just the motherfucker.
But my thing is,
the motherfucking signal.
So I started looking,
Yeah,
like
definitely.
researching like heaven and hell.
I'm sorry, I ain't
I wanted to know like
conspiracy
when
theory, that
you know
shit.
these words even came about.
motherfuckers
You know, when did we
receiving
get those
senses.
words in the English
Oh,
language?
sure.
You know what I mean? When did we put that in the
sure.
lexicon,
And
as
tones
D.O.
also.
Hughley would say?
That's another.
So
When
my
did we
thing
do
is,
that? And it was like
like
right after, you know what I mean?
Heaven and hell,
or right before Jesus
I wanted
came
to
on the
know, like,
scene.
when, these
You know,
words
it was like
even
so. It
came
seems
about.
like
You
it
know,
was
when did we get
propaganda.
those words in the English language?
It seems
You know
like
what I
heaven
mean?
and
When did we
hell
put
came
that in
about
the
as
lexicon?
propaganda
As,
first, and
D.O.
then
would say.
you see, excuse
when did
me,
we do that?
and then we get God
And it was like,
or Jesus'
like right
version
after,
of God.
you know what I mean?
Because there was already a
Right before
Islamic
Jesus
version
came
of
on
God.
the scene.
There was already, you know what I mean.
You know, it was
know,
like it
for
seems
Muslims
like it
or
was
whatever.
propaganda.
There was already all these other
It seems
conceptions
like
of God.
heaven
There
and
was
hell came
Taoism and
about
stuff
as
like that
propaganda
prior
first,
to
and then
paganism.
you
You know,
see-
which encompasses a
and
lot
then
of
we get
your,
God.
you know, your earth
Or
peoples
Jesus'
and stuff
version
like
of
that,
God.
and people who believe in
Because there was already
you know,
a
crystals
Islamic
and
version
stuff
of
like that.
God. There was already,
So,
you know what I mean? You know,
we already
for
had all
Muslims
that.
or whatever.
And then
there was already
there
all these
was
other conceptions of
obviously
God. There was
some
Taoism
sort
and
of
stuff like
gathering
that prior
to where they started
paganism,
campaigning
you know, which encompasses
heaven and
a
hell,
lot of your, you know,
the
your
afterlife,
earth peoples
the
and
hereafter,
stuff like
what's going to
that.
happen
People
when you
believe
move
in,
on, you know,
crystals and,
and
stuff like that.
and it was
So,
fear mongering, in my opinion.
We already had all
in
that.
my
And then
opinion,
there was
it was
obviously
fear mongering
some sort
because
of
what do you
gathering
get right
where
along
they
with
started
that?
campaigning
Here's where it comes in.
heaven and
Anybody
hell,
who fucks with me knows
the afterlife.
here it comes.
Hereafter, what's going to
your
happen
government.
when you move on? You know,
Because what
And-
goes along with the laws
and
of
it was
Moses
fear-mongering, in my opinion.
is
in my
what
opinion,
modern day
it
government
was
is
fear-mongering.
modeled after.
Because what do you get
When you talk
right
about
along
taxes,
with
the
that
first
is where it
representation
comes
of
in.
taxes,
Anybody who fucks with me knows, here it comes.
taxing
government.
comes from tithing.
Because what goes along with the laws of Moses.
So when you look at these things and you start looking at it that way, then God looks a little bit more like something to fix for the masses, the population, populos, unlearned mass, for these people to fixate on,
comes from
so that
tithing.
everybody could fixate on this God.
So when you look at these things
And then
and you
that
start
is
looking at it
what
that way,
people-
then God
excuse me, the
looks a little
government,
bit
wicked
more
men,
like
used to control the masses.
For the masses, the population.
They use
Popolos,
God to control the masses. Because if
for
I look
these
at it
people to
etymologically and
so
chronologically,
that everybody can
it
fixate on
appears
this
that
God.
some sort of campaign took place
And
to
then
get
that
the
is what
idea
people-
of a hereafter,
Excuse me, the government,
and then
wicked men
a good place, bad
used to
place,
control the masses.
and then here's a person
They
who
use,
runs that shit.
God to
And this is
control
what's
the
going to
masses.
happen. So if
Because
you don't do
if
good
I
things
look at
here,
it etymologically
like pay your taxes,
and
your tithes,
chronologically,
your
it
offering,
appears that
obey
some
the
sort
laws
of
of the
campaign
land.
took place to get the idea of a
you know,
hereafter.
this isn't
and
to say
then
that I don't believe
a
in
good place,
a
bad
higher
place.
power. That's not to
And
say
then here's
that,
a person
but I'm
who
saying as
runs
we
that
know
shit.
it, as organized
And this
religion,
is what's gonna
because
happen.
organized
So if you
religion
don't
and
do
God,
things
the way we
here,
see it, go hand in
like
hand.
taxes,
Most people in the
tithes,
United States think God, they think
offering,
church automatically.
obey
You
the
know,
laws
most
of the
people,
land.
unless you're a Muslim or something like that, you have some sort of other
You know,
affiliation.
this isn't to say that I
Typically,
don't
an
believe
American
in,
hears the
a
word
higher
God, and
power.
you think
That's
Jesus.
not to say that.
You think
but I'm saying
church.
as we know
Because
it, as
that's
organized religion,
what it is
because
for
organized
us.
religion and God,
You know,
the
now
way
in
we see
another
it go
country,
hand
I'm
in
sure
hand.
it's something else.
Most people in the
But
United
for us
States
in
think
this
God, they
country,
think
boom,
church
that's the go-to. And for
automatically.
me,
You know,
the
those
image that
people,
pops in my
unless you're
head is the
Muslim
white
or
man
something
with the
like that, you
shag,
have some sort
looking
of
off
other
with the halo,
affiliation. Typically in
with
America,
the halo
word
and the
God,
crown
you
of
think
thorns. You know,
Jesus.
that's
You think
Jesus to
church.
me.
Because
Sanctuary Borgia,
that's
but
what
whatever.
it is for us. You know, now in another country, I'm sure it's
That's
something
Jesus to me.
But for
So
us
when
in
I
this
think
country,
about these things,
boom,
who
that's the
put that
go-to.
image
For
there?
me, the image that pops in my
Who
head is
put
the white
that
man with the
idea
shag,
there?
looking off with
The
the
same
halo.
people want to run the show,
With the halo
and then
and
they'll
the
say,
crown of
"Arshawn, you're a
thorns,"
conspiracy
you know,
theorist."
that's
Okay,
Jesus
maybe,
to me.
maybe,
Sanctuary Borgia,
but
This,
with
no,
all-
this shit is fact.
that's Jesus to me.
The shit
So
you
when I
about to say is
think
fact.
about these things, who put that image there?
Motherfuckers
Who
came
put that idea
with
there?
war.
The same people who
go,
want to run the show, and then they'll say, "Arshawn, you're a
whatever,
conspiracy
their
theorist." Okay,
religion.
maybe.
They won.
Maybe. But
Their religion
No,
is
it ain't
here.
no facts. This is
With
no,
all-
this shit is fact. This the shit that you about to say is fact
Religion is here.
because
It's
motherfuckers came
here.
with
They
war.
came here.
No matter where they go,
Because you know they didn't just fucking rediscover
So
this shit.
whatever
like,
they
with
want, their
nothing here.
religion.
Cities like New York,
won.
Miami, Chicago.
Now the religion is here.
You can't tell me that these
Move on to the
motherfucking
next slide.
cities wasn't here
When
right,
already
Right.
before these motherfuckers came.
right.
That's how we get.
So they come with
here.
war,
hmm
They
kill
came here.
everybody.
But no, I mean,
Religion takes
they
over.
can just
what I think it's in Matthew. I think it's in Matthew. Say the the strong taketh by force.
Atlanta. You can't tell me that these motherfuckers. See
You know what I'm
wasn't
saying?
All right, that's
Right.
Already
And,
before these motherfuckers came.
So that means
Right.
So they
we
come
come
with
in
war,
take y'all.
kill everybody.
and put
Yeah,
y'all
it
But
said,
no,
you
I
know what I
mean,
mean?
that's
Like, it said heaven has suffered,
what-
you
I
know, the
think it's in
strong
Matthew.
men, you
I
know,
think
the
it's in
strong
Matthew.
men
It said
had,
that,
you know, they
you know,
just
the
doing
strong
whatever they
take it
wanted
by
to do. They
force.
taking what they want, doing what they want, moving how they want.
You know what I'm saying?
You know,
that's-
and I
and,
identify with that. I greatly do.
So that
I'm a
means-
firm believer in,
take
Darwinism. I'm a
Yeah,
firm believer in,
I mean,
survival
like,
of the
it said
fittest.
heaven has suffered, you know, the
But
strong
of course, we
men,
know
you
in the
the
United
strong
States of
men,
America
and,
that the
you know, they
equation
just
has
doing
been
whatever they
changed.
wanted to do. They
Yeah, the
taking what
equation
they
has
want,
changed
doing
because
what they want,
the
moving how
wimpy
they want.
kid,
The weak thrive.
You know,
the wimpy
and
kid
I identify
has the
with
pistol.
that. I greatly do. I'm
You
a
know,
firm
it's a
believer
very
in,
different world when the wimpy kid
Darwinism.
can
I'm
level
a
the
firm
playing
believer
field.
in, you know, survival of the fittest.
And the wimpy kid has the pistol,
But of
and the
course we
real
know in
pistol is
United
the
States
pen.
of America that the equation
He has
don't
the
go
pen,
that
he
way.
has the media.
Yeah,
The wimpy
equation has
kid
changed because
is in charge of the video
wimpy kid-
camera.
The weak thrives.
The wimpy kid is in charge
has
of the
the
church.
pistol now.
The wimpy kid is in charge of
You know, it's a
God.
very different world when the
God,
wimpy kid
if you've
can
ever
level
read the
playing
Bible, the
field.
God in the Bible is about
And the
busting
wimpy
heads and
kid
fucking
has the
people up.
pistol. And the real pistol is the pen.
That I have read.
The God in the Bible is
The
Benny
media,
Siegel
The wimpy kid
in state property.
is in charge of the
Get down or lay
video.
down.
That's
The
true
wimpy
too.
kid is in charge of the
God
church.
of the
The
Bible,
wimpy kid is in charge of God.
for all intents and purposes, is
God,
no longer no
if you
different
read-
than
if
the
you
President of the
ever
United
read the
States, a
Bible,
mass
God in the
murderer,
Bible is about busting
and a
heads
maniac.
fucking people up.
the God of the Bible. Just based on the
Yeah,
information, I know
the
there's
God in the
somebody
Bible
tearing the
is
chat
Benny
up
Siegel.
talking about, oh, this sucking
And
nigga
stay
going to
right
hell,
there.
and
Get
I
down
may
and
be,
lay down.
and I'll tell you that's gonna bring me to my next topic as well.
All
So
intents and
hold tight.
purposes is no
But-
different than the President of the United States, a mass murderer and a maniac. The God of the Bible.
Brain
Just
fart.
based on the information,
No,
I know there's
at
somebody
the end of the
tearing
day-
chat up talking about, oh, this something
Because I just had a thought about those people. Because I know somebody is upset about
that's gonna bring me
what
to,
I'm saying.
my next topic as well.
Read
so
your
hold
Bible.
tight. But
Read your Bible. Don't listen to what I'm saying, because I'm gonna say it in an asshole way. I'm gonna say it in a funny way. I'm gonna say it in a satirical way.
Because I just
that's my way. I'm gonna do that.
I know somebody is upset about.
And it may come across as shocking, brazen, sometimes disrespectful. But I challenge you to find the lie in what I said. Go read your Bible, and you'll find that the God of the Bible kills kids. The God of the Bible kills anybody who doesn't do what he asked him to do. The God of the Bible acts like he gives you a choice, and then when you do what you want to do instead, he'll kill you.
Disrespectful, but
and they say, well, how do he kill kids? The God of the Bible been killing kids.
In what I said.
The God of the Bible, matter of fact, he says, I'll show you where they lie. They'll say God tempts no man. But he told Abraham to kill Isaac, lay him up on the thing and sacrifice your man. Ready to stab him. He said, all right, I'm just playing. Here, a goat, sacrifice the goat.
And they said, well, how do you kill kids? The God of the Bible been killing kids.
You know, we talked about the story of Lot, how this nigga allowed bad things to happen to his partner.
They'll say God tempts no man.
He told you, hey man, this is a real nigga, he got back. He allowed the feds to come in, do fuck to. That's what he did. Story of Job, I mean not Lot, but Job. The story of Job was all the way fucked up.
We talked about.
He just treated Job badly for no reason. Here goes some more kids. Fuck you, man. I like Lil Sean and Nina.
He told you, hey man,
I like Noble.
He got my back.
If God was to take them away from me and then say, all right, you passed the test, Arshawn. Here some more kids. I'd be like, man, boy, fuck you.
That's what he did.
What?
Man, I've got. Hey, look, man, I don't fuck with you. And whenever this is over and I get to see you, my nigga, I'm with Satan. I'm trying to do something to
him.
You catching that fade.
Here goes some more kids. Fuck you, man. I like.
Just know I'm on the other team, bro. If you killed my kids, I'm on the other team.
Take them away from me.
I don't fuck with you no more.
All right, you passed the test, Arshawn.
This nigga Job. This is when I thought Job was just nigga. Because he's going to say, I don't know why, but in my brain, when I was reading that as a kid, he always sounded like a slave. In my brain, the Lord give it, and the Lord take it away. Wait a minute. That's a whole ass nigga, man. That's called an Indian giver where I'm from. That's an Indian giver.
This nigga Job.
Why are we okay with this petty individual governing us? I'll tell you why. The same reason that we don't buck up, ante up, and do something about the government that's putting a foot in our ass.
In my brain, the Lord give it, and the Lord
comfort, fear. Wait a minute. And laziness.
That's a whole ass nigga, man. That's called an Indian giver where I'm from.
Oh yeah,
that's an Indian giver.
No, I would say 90% of it is comfort. Because let me tell you, the greatest motivator in the world, I ask people this all the time, and they think it's love, and I say no. The greatest motivator in the world is pain, drama. See, because I bet you I can get your ass to get off that couch and take out that trash if I take a stick pin and stick it in the side of your ass faster than you would get off that couch if I said, hey, can you take out the trash, please? Which one do you think? Which kid's going to get up and move faster? The kid that got stuck in his ass with that safety pin.
The greatest motivator in the world.
Because pain is instant.
Drama. See,
right there, boom. It's in your face.
It has to be dealt with. Get off that couch.
This
take out that trash if I take a stick pin and stick it in the side of your ass.
Which brings me to my next point.
Then you would get off that couch if I said, hey, can you take out the trash, please?
You're not going to get anything by praying and asking for it. Even the Bible says faith, if it has not works, is dead.
It's instant.
Meaning you got to do something.
Right there, boom. It's in your face. It has to be dealt with.
But people aren't going to get up and do anything because they're too comfortable.
Which brings me to my next point.
Ain't that something?
You're not going to get anything by praying and asking for it. Even the Bible says
did we make God or did God make us?
Works, is dead.
Is it,
meaning you got to do something.
Arrogant to think that we are the pinnacle of intelligence? We are the apex of intelligence, and that we created God just to have an activity? Kind of like when a kid skins their knee, you give them a popsicle or something to take their mind off the pain. We created God to deal with the trifles of everyday life on this miserable marble.
We are the pinnacle of intelligence. We are the apex of intelligence.
Man, God's plan ain't about shit. If it includes people getting molested and raped and abused and bombed and killed, God's plan ain't worth a fuck.
Take their mind off the pain.
And most people are afraid to say that.
Deal with the trifles of everyday life.
Most people are afraid to say that God's plan ain't worth a fuck. If his plan includes rape and murder and jail and stealing and killing and all that stuff, can we all agree that this nigga might not be the best motherfucker to be running shit?
God's plan ain't worth a fuck.
Because we can all agree that if we had the power to stop any of that, we would. So why do we believe in this motherfucker if we believe he has the all power? Why doesn't he stop things that us fucked up ass individuals would stop if we had the power?
And jail and stealing and killing and all that stuff. Can we
that
all
nigga ain't
agree
shit.
This nigga might not be
I'm
the
sorry.
best motherfucker to be running shit.
Your daddy ain't never done nothing for you. He never bought you no shoes. He never picked you up. And what do you say about your daddy? He ain't shit. God ain't never did nothing for you. He haven't been there for you. He lets people get raped and murdered and fucked around. So why are you mad at me when I say, man, that nigga ain't shit? And then a church person will tell me, you're going to hell. And I was like, well, sign me up, baby.
He never bought you no
sign
shoes.
me up. Because fuck heaven anyway. Because I don't want to go up there where they doing church 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Man, fuck those dudes. I don't want to be right. Look, you already told me everything I need to know about those motherfuckers up there. And it don't sound like shit that I want to be associated with. Streets of Gold. That sounds like it's going to be cold. Like Streets of Gold. Like... And then it's like, we ain't gonna have grass.
Sign me up, baby.
So there's no grass. It's just Streets of Gold. It's gonna be freezing. Have you ever lived in a place where it's just hardwood floors in your house? Freezing. Can you imagine golden floors? It is going to be freezing in heaven.
You done gave this shit some deep thought.
Pearly gates. Listen, pearls aren't very strong. That gate weak than a motherfucker. That ain't gonna keep anybody out. Pearly gates. So they're gonna be playing the harp and the lyre 24/7. Now that sounds majestic until you hear a harp and a lyre in concert playing together. It's not very exactly. Pearly gates. Anyways,
listen, pearls
you're gonna wear robes and you'll get wings, and we're gonna sing God's praises 24/7 for all eternity.
So they're gonna be playing the harp and the lyre 24/7.
That shit sound ridiculous, bro. That sound dumb as fuck. I don't go to church now.
And a lyre and concert playing together.
Now hold on.
That sound like that type of shit.
Yeah, Jamestown. Hold on. But now in Lifton, you know something for free. Now hold on now. They giving something to free in church. I go to church now. Now when they got one of them churches that giving out them TVs on them raffles, I can't miss that raffle. But anyway, I'm not, bro. I'm not going to church now. What makes you think you want to die and go to church for 24/7 all eternity? That's stupid. I want to go where they eating ass. That's just me. I'm sorry, it don't sound like nobody getting their ass ate in heaven. I want to go to the hot place, man. Fuck all that dumb shit. I want to be somewhere where I got options at. I want to be somewhere. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't sound like they fucking bitches in heaven. It don't sound like nobody is doing nothing risky in heaven. There's no little sex roses or hummingbirds. None of that shit's up there, bro.
That's just me.
I didn't read about any of that. I read the whole Bible, but I didn't read about any of that.
I'm about ready to go.
I want to go to the hot place, man. Fuck all that dumb shit. I want to be somewhere where I got options at. I want to be somewhere. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't sound like they fucking bitches.
At this point, live.
It don't sound like no.
But anyways, I'm serious. Like I've given this some serious fucking thought. I don't want to go to heaven. Like I was like, I'm gonna live however the fuck I want to down here because I don't want to go to heaven anyway.
I didn't read about any of that.
I was like, because heaven doesn't sound fun. Heaven sounds miserable as fuck, and I understand why Satan was like, I can imagine Lucifer being up there, because he was the minister of music. You got to remember, his role was music. So my nigga was in charge of the concerts, and this whole ass nigga God is the, he gets to pick all the songs. They've been playing Amazing Grace for 273,000 years. So my nigga's sitting up here with his harp, and he was like, bro, if I save one more wretch, I'm going to fucking scream.
I can imagine Lucifer being up there because he was the minister of music.
Here's the kicker.
Remember, his role
Lucifer
was
wasn't the only one that felt like that. You got to remember, the Bible said a third of the angels went with him. So it was a third of the heavenly host that was like, yeah, man, God, this some bullshit. We don't want to play this song no more.
So my nigga sitting up here with his harp, and he was like,
took off running and said, oh, you done fucked up and took off
running.
Factoids.
Oh, man, I'm saying, hey, so.
Factoids.
He screamed.
But no, man, like I fucking hate that. You know, like people don't really think about it. I was like, I want to hear the devil's side.
The Bible said a third of the angels.
I want to know what the devil has to say about what happened in heaven, because all we get is the Bible. We get God's side. We get what God has to say about it.
We don't want to play this song no more.
And I don't get to hear the devil's side. There's three sides to the story. There's the two-party involved, and there's the actual truth. And when both people get done telling their side, the truth lies somewhere in between.
But no, man, like I fucking hate that. You know, like people don't really think about it.
I definitely want to find out what Lucifer's side is, because I bet he has an interesting take on it. He'd be like, man, look, I tried to go to God. I tried to reason with him, like, can we have at least one hip hop night?
I don't get to hear the devil's side.
Bro, I created hip hop. I just wanted one hip hop night. I wanted one jazz night.
And when both people
I'm like, bro, the radio been on what you wanted on for all eternity, God. Can I get one night? Like, I'm the minister of music. You said I'm the minister of music, but you pick all the music. So how the fuck am I the minister of some shit that I don't even... It's an illusion of control, God. Fuck with me one time. Let me throw a funky ass party up here and one time.
Bro,
hey, look, we're going to do things the traditional way, my son.
I just wanted one hip hop night. I wanted one jazz night.
Man, fuck all that.
You don't know. I'm like, bro.
And then he threw a house party with a third of his brothers and sisters. He threw a party and he was like, hey, man, bust this up, cuz.
You said I'm the minister of music.
My nigga like, bust that up, cuz. Bust that up. You know what song? Amazing Grace, B. I don't want to hear Rapper's Delight. We haven't even made that yet. I don't want to hear Rapper's Delight. I want to hear Amazing Grace. Play Amazing Grace. And then Lucifer was like, man, fuck you. What? Where'd you learn that word from? I actualized.
And then he threw a house party with a third of his brothers and sisters.
And I taught it to my brothers and them too.
Bust this up, cuz.
Yeah. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Like, bust that up, cuz.
I could just imagine a whole bunch of angels. Yeah, fuck you.
Amazing Grace, B.
You know, of course, God has the trump card because he's God. Opens the trap doors in the Golden Gate. You know what I mean?
What if it's some shit like motherfucking
flush my niggas down the toilet?
Where'd you learn that word from?
Winchesters. Fucking, I can't think of the name of the TV show, man.
And I taught it to my brothers and them too.
It's something.
But I don't know. I know a lot of people think like I'm crazy because I'll say that. I will say.
I can just imagine a whole bunch of angels. Yeah, fuck you.
And let me tell you something.
And of course, God has the trump card.
I won't say that I regretted it. But there was one time that I did put my foot in my mouth because I was talking to a girl.
Flush my niggas down. What's with Dean and
talking.
Winchester.
And I was having one of these tirades, and she had messaged me one day and was like, listen, I'm going to pray for your soul, but I don't think I could deal with a man who believes the way that you do. Who believes the way that you do. And I was like, oh, wow.
Because I was...
Maybe so I learned not to bring up my religious views until after I get the pussy.
Talking.
And, because it'll fuck it up. It'll fuck it up. And here's the thing about not being religious. I don't mind pretending like I'm a church nigga to get.
Pray for your soul, but
I don't mind pretending to be a church nigga to get the pussy. Why? Because I've told lies to get the vagina. Why won't I pretend like I believe in Jesus to get the vagina? You better believe I will, and I clean up nice too. Man, you should see me in a suit on a Sunday morning with one of those lowly church hoes.
Man, you be looking like the dude.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking
about. That's what you look like.
Oh, me. I ain't gonna lie. Now, hold on. When I cut weight for a fight, I swear that's exactly what I look like. I look like Starving Marvin.
I don't mind pretending to be a church.
Yeah, was looking crazy.
Because
I look Somalian, bro.
Why won't I pretend like I believe in Jesus to get the vagina? You better believe I will.
I look like if there's not a fly on me, it's about to be one.
Man, you looking like the dude from the choir. The lieutenant.
But no, all jokes and meanness aside, though, the idea of God is very fascinating to me. Like I pray to whoever I believe in. And I'm like, man,
Hey, you was looking
like,
crazy
nigga, this some cool shit. You know, some boss game that you ran on these people down here, man. Because you got people to kill over you and they ain't never even seen it. You know what I'm saying? My kids see me every day and don't give a shit about it.
Man.
You know what I mean? Like, so you're a dope ass dude. Like, don't get me wrong, you're a powerful energy, bro. Because you got people who have died and will die, and all they have ever heard is a rumor of you.
Believe in.
That's man, that is powerful.
And I'm like, man, like nigga, there's some cool shit, you know. Some
yeah, I agree too. There's a little bit of crazy in there too. But I don't want to lead anybody astray. But I'm not going to be afraid to voice my opinion. I mean, like I said, I'm Arshad Mouthpiece. I say what the fuck I want.
So you're a dope ass dude. Like,
I do want people to think deeper. Like, ask the question. And don't ask the question with the energy of, I'm not going to believe in Jesus. I'm not going to believe in God. Because it doesn't do me a disservice for you to believe in Jesus or for you to be a Christian. It does make me feel like you're an idiot, don't have any of these questions. Or if you don't agree that some of these things are at least questionable.
But I'm not going to be afraid to
or unless you're just a disagreeable person, unless you're just a contentious individual, you know, you can see, at least you can see the logic, at least you can see like, hey, I don't agree with his line of thinking, but I do understand the logic. It's not like he's talking just totally crazy, because if you've been in your Bible and you know what I'm talking, then you know. Usually people who've actually read their Bible laugh when they hear me say this, because they know the story. They're like, I never thought of it that way. That's why it's funny to them. And it doesn't rock their belief. I talked to your cousin, what's his name? Vanell. Yeah, you know, it doesn't rock his belief. You know, I still believe how I believe. He still believes the way he believes. And that's when we get to manhood. And that's how we tie all that shit in, because you think I don't know some real men who are Christians? You better believe I do. And I'm talking about devout, but they ain't no hope. At the same time, there ain't no hope. You know what I'm saying? So, but I just don't like the fact that I can't speak freely about these things without one of those guys inviting me to a fist fight. I wish I could have this conversation with an uber Christian and it not turn into him wanting to hurt me. Because usually that's what happens. I'm like, wait, I'm not emotionally attached to this, so I don't care. You know what I mean? Like that, you don't believe what I believe. I don't care. I don't give a fuck. But they care so much that they'll hurt you. You know what I mean? And I've been in that situation where I thought I was having a conversation with another guy. We were just having an intellectual conversation about ideas, and I didn't know that he loved Jesus the way that he did. But he banged that table and stood up, and I was like, oh, wow. Hey, chill out there, killer. Just talking. Look, let me go get some of this cheesecake, boy. You tripping. Get my weak ass over here to this dessert table. So, you know, that's the part that's disheartening for me, is that you can't. I won't say that you can't. I haven't found an uber Christian that I can have a conversation like this with, so that we can actually have a banter, have a back and forth. You know what I mean?
Christianity. He banged that table and stood up, and I was like, oh, wow. Hey, chill out there, killer.
It's the most problematic one.
Look, let me go get some of this cheesecake, boy. You tripping?
It's the most problematic one.
Get my weekends over here.
No, it's the most problematic one. Because it's the most fractured and splintered. And it's the most widespread.
I haven't found
it's the most widespread. It goes back and forth between Muslims and Christians. You know what I mean? Who has the biggest number?
Christianity.
Yeah, the big three, all of them. Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Those are the big three Abrahamic religions. They all come from the same.
It's the most problematic.
And it is what it is. If you read whether it's Torah or what do you call that thing, the Quran or the Bible, you're gonna run into the same characters.
Most widespread.
And I say that, and people get angry at me because I'm like, well, I look at the book as a book, because I know that it was written by the hand of a man. So I say characters, and people are like, no, these are real people, and I'm like,
the big three,
they don't exist in any other book. Just like Sebastian doesn't exist outside of the Neverending Story.
Those are the big three Abrahamic religions.
No, Sebastian doesn't exist outside of the Neverending Story. Neither does a Trey. You know, or Falcor, or any of those other people. You don't see them.
What do you call that thing?
Right, you don't see them
Bible,
across the literary works. No, you don't, because these weren't real people. You see them across a multitude of literary works. We see that right now today. LeBron James is in multiple magazines and writings. You know what I mean? Just look at one notable person like that. Caesar, multiple, you know what I mean, writings. Right. So when you look at it like that, it's like, why do we have evidence that these people existed, but we don't have evidence of these people who are supposed to be even more note? Why don't we have evidence that they exist?
Right. You don't see
So I don't know. I just find it to be really problematic that there are so many holes, so many unanswered questions, and then people will act like you're the bad guy because you do have questions, and then when you have questions that they can't answer, you're met with violence, which is what has been my experience with church people. But anyways, it was a fun conversation. I like talking about the conversation because it's so enlightening, it's so eye-opening, it's so risque, it's so taboo. Next week, if we can get the good sister young Miss Aya Bird to roll with us on the back and forth on some interactions between men and women. We were on a post earlier this week, and we had some fun back and forth. She's a smart lady. I like smart girls who have those, feminists. I'm not putting that on her because I don't know that. We haven't had that conversation to know that she's a feminist, but I know that based on some things that she said, she has some feminist views. And I think it's interesting because I'm a misogynist, I'm a male chauvinist, and I stand on that. And I feel like, and like I told her, this is what sparked it for me. I said, well, here's the thing, ma'am.
Interactions between men and women.
In
we were on a post earlier
my male chauvinist
utopia,
there's a safe place for me.
I like smart girls who
is
have
there a
those
safe
strong,
place for men in your feminist
utopia? I don't know
utopia?
that. We haven't had that conversation to know that she's
it's
a
not.
Feminist.
There's a place of servitude
based on some things that
reserved
she
for
has some
men
feminist
in the feminist utopia.
And I think it's interesting because I'm a misogynist.
And we're going to talk about that topic and many more next week. Fingers crossed. We haven't got a 100% confirmation, but she did say that she was down. So I hopefully this puts a little bit more pressure, and then next week we can rock it out like that. Kev, you want to plug anything before we left?
No, before we
is
start,
there a safe place for men in your feminist utopia?
When it comes to whatever you fucking believe in, believe in whatever you believe in.
There's a place of servitude
another motherfucker say
reserved for men
in
the feminist utopia.
Also with your fucking thoughts.
And we're going to talk about that topic and many more next week. Fingers crossed. We haven't got a 100% confirmation, but she did say that she was down. I can smoke a whole bag of that. So,
anyways, my name is Arshawn Wade, a.k.a. the Angry Nerd, a.k.a. Arshawn the Mouthpiece, the cat that got lost in Arkansas on his way to South Beach, a.k.a. Arshawn, a.k.a. Sean with a motherfucking R. Peace.
When it comes to whatever you fucking believe in whatever you believe in. Don't let another motherfucker say, well, let their opinion on what you believe in also with your fucking thoughts. Just accept their opinion and keep on fucking rolling. Because at the end of the day, they motherfucking opinion don't matter in your life.
Man, I can smoke a whole bag of that. Anyways, my name is Arshawn Wade, a.k.a. the Angry Nerd, a.k.a. Arshawn the Mouthpiece, the cat that got lost in Arkansas on his way to South Beach, a.k.a. Arshawn, a.k.a. Sean with a motherfucking R. Peace.